Hello and welcome. Today we've a real treat for you, as joining us is a very special guest from the Alexandra Palace Television Society.
Welcome, friends. That's right. Archivist extraordinaire Simon Vaughan is unlocking the vault just for us.
Just wait till you see what's inside. Absolute gold, including rare footage revealing how the BBC ticked back in the 30s and the 40s.
And a reel about Radio Olympia that will delight all you radio enthusiasts.
We're spinning back to the 60s beat scene with a scopatone from Shane Fenton and the Fentones.
And the debonair David Niven will be gracing your screens with some wise words.
Almost as debonair as us.
I'd like to welcome today Simon Vaughan. How do you do, Simon? This is
Hello,
Mike,
Noel.
young Mike.
Hi,
over there.
Simon.
Hello,
Yeah,
Mike.
yeah.
Hi there. Simon is the archivist of the Alexandra Palace Television Society, therefore knows everything about it. Well, I've worked there in the past. It's a beautiful building, isn't it? Really
It's a
is.
fantastic building.
Oh, yeah.
Full of history. Yes, it is. It's an amazing building.
So what goes on there today? We know what's gone on in the past. Horse racing's gone on there, early stages of television. What happens there now?
Now it's a big exhibition venue. It's got a Victorian theatre, which was brought back into use with Heritage Lottery funding.
Right.
Which has proved to be extremely popular. But sadly, the television studios are no longer in use and are quite empty and almost forgotten about now, really.
For those out there who don't know the history of Alexandra Palace, perhaps you could brief us on that.
It was the first home of BBC Television. The BBC were looking for a home for television in 1936 after the Baird 30-line mechanical service closed down. There were several sites around London. Crystal Palace is where John Logie Baird had his studios. Because he was based there, the BBC didn't really want to put their studios there, which is just as well because it burned down in December 36.
Right. Yeah.
So there were several places that were considered, but because Alexandra Palace is 306 feet above sea level, and by the time they'd put the transmitting mast on the corner of the southeast wing, it took it up to sort of 600 feet above sea level, and it gave a very good signal across the majority of London. Because at that point, the signal was only supposed to travel 25 miles in and around London. As consequently, as it turned out, the signal travelled a lot further.
You brought us some things in. Perhaps you could
I've bought some bits and pieces from the archive for you to have a look at. But I mean, we have things like this is the opening of the television service. This is the programme arrangements.
It's the very first one.
The very first one. So that's the 2nd of November 1936. But we have things like the running order that was actually in the Baird studio. So, and one of these you actually see, because Baird had 3 different systems running of television, and one of them was a film system whereby you filmed the studio scene, and 54 seconds later, the image was transmitted.
Oh, gosh.
So you had to start it 54 seconds before you wanted the action to appear on screen. Wow. So you can see you've got all the timings. So you've got the intermediate film system, you've got the spotlight system, and then he did have an electronic system called the electron camera, but that could only operate within 200 feet of its apparatus. So we have all this sort of documentation, and that's part of the script for the running order. There's the opening announcement. The opening ceremony was actually repeated again in the evening because the Baird system, the film, could be wound up and then shown at a future date.
I see,
So they actually did 30 seconds of the opening ceremony again in the evening.
And this one, they've got Kay Stammers in it, who was tennis champion.
Yes, that's right.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? Kay Stammers, gosh.
There's a few more things, as well as the first television copy of
Oh my
Radio
goodness, that's the
Times.
very first one.
And there's Elizabeth Cowell on the front cover.
Yes. Gosh.
And we have some of Cecil Madden, who was the programme organiser.
Yes.
We have some of his scrapbooks from pre-war television.
My goodness. How have these survived?
They've just been passed down from parents to children. In some instances, myself or the Television Society have been written into people's wills, so that when anything happens to them, you know, please contact Simon, and because I want him to have the memorabilia for
Beatrice Lilly.
Beatrice Lilly.
So you brought some reels in for us to see.
I have
Simon.
indeed.
Now, who filmed these?
They were filmed by a person called Desmond Campbell,
Right.
who had worked for the Baird television
Right.
company and then transferred to the BBC. He was the lighting engineer for Alexandra Palace, and he took the film as a record of his own work in television lighting.
Right.
We also have over 1,200 photographs of pre-war television, which he took as well. But the brilliant thing about the films is that they give us the nearest we can get to what the viewers saw on the screen at home.
Yes.
I mean, some of the film footage is colour, and 16mm colour film didn't come over to the UK until
and it was all
37.
electronic, though.
The television system was electronic.
Tele-recordings hadn't started. Then,
Tele-recordings didn't come in until the very late 1940s.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
this was actually shot on a 16mm film camera, actually in the studio, while the transmissions...
were
some
going
are
on.
rehearsals and some are
Okay,
transmission,
how interesting.
actual transmissions.
How interesting. So we'll take a look at those. So, Bob, let's roll that radio reel.
So, yeah, that was an interesting reel. I mean, an insight into days gone by, really.
Absolutely, and particularly pre-war, because the BBC wanted people to buy or the radio industry wanted people to buy television sets. The BBC actually built a television studio at Olympia, and one wall was completely glass, so that the public attending the exhibition could actually look into the studio and see the process of making television. There we have a Marconi catalogue
Look at
of
that.
some of the TV performers, as well as some of the
the sets.
Some of the
remarkable,
wonderful
isn't it?
sets.
How big they were on the tiny little screen, you know.
They were size of a sideboard.
Yes,
and
yes.
the early sets with mirrors
Yes,
in the lid.
yes.
Because the tubes were so long
right.
that you couldn't have them. You couldn't have them horizontally.
No.
So they mounted them vertically, and you watched it through.
But it was a piece of
45
furniture,
Oh,
wasn't it? Look at it,
absolutely.
As were
walnut.
radiograms, weren't
Yes,
they?
they were
Yes.
indeed.
furniture.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mother used to polish those, didn't she? So.
Well, they cost a lot of
They
money, so they
did.
were
They-
worth looking after.
Yeah.
And those
Yeah.
cameras that were giant, when you go and film now and you have a tiny camera, people think, is that it? But that's not a real camera. People are expecting still
Yeah,
these
yeah,
giant
yeah.
cameras whirring away.
Well, the Emitron camera you see here, I mean, all the tubes for those were handmade.
Gosh.
And EMI's factory at Hayes, they had basically the production line, and they hand feeding tubes up to Alexandra Palace constantly, because a tube at rehearsals in the afternoon might be producing black as perhaps a light grey.
Right.
As the tube got tired, and the emissions from the tube got less, that light grey might turn to white by the evening transmission. So talking about an Emitron
Where
camera
did this
tube,
suddenly come from?
this is also in the APTS archive, and it was actually a Emitron camera tube that was used at Alexandra Palace and was safely stored away by a cameraman that actually used this in a camera in the studios.
That's
put that back
unbroken.
there,
Is
then.
And unbroken, if you did break an Emitron tube, you were given the award of the OBE, Order of the Broken Emitron.
I
Oh,
love
gosh.
it.
And there are some. They actually made some slips that were given to engineers.
That's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, this happens to be the lens
Yeah.
that went on the front of the Emitron, which so the image would have then come through the lens and been focused onto the.
So how old would that be now?
This is as old as that. So potentially
gosh.
this is 1936. Well, these lenses were used from 36 onwards.
Right.
The 25-mile radius, this is fascinating to me. Presumably they had outside aerials, the homes that had them. They must have been enormous, the aerials, weren't they?
They were quite
Yeah.
large. But the old-fashioned H aerials
The
that
H
you
aerials,
still occasionally see
You
on
do
rooftops
occasionally,
today.
yes. So what's on the next reel you brought in to show us, Simon?
The next reel is a bit of a potpourri
Oh.
of various programmes through the 30s and 40s.
Right.
So it's a mixture of some colour footage, some black and white footage. It's just a kind of a cross-section of the sort of programme.
And who
that
filmed this? Was
It was
the same-
Desmond. It's still
the same
Desmond
guy?
Campbell. Yes,
Lovely.
it was still Desmond
Yeah.
Campbell.
Good.
Yes.
So, Bob, are you going to...
Bob, roll that potpourri.
Hello, everybody. This is the BBC television station at Alexandra Palace.
He's masking you a bit, I know, but that's the effect. Back to one. Back to one. Over to two.
The Radio Times, on sale tomorrow, contains the weekly television supplement. In this week's supplement, George Maurer Farrell writes the feature article on televising drama. Monday, in our series The World of Women, Olga Katzin and Pearl Binder will be seen, followed by the 5th and 6th presentations of our novelty shows Cabaret Cartoons.
This afternoon being a bank holiday, we've decided, like a lot of other people, to take a little jaunt and visit a fairground. Fortunately, there's no need for us to go further afield than the grounds of Alexandra Park, where there's quite a large crowd, swings, flying chairs, roundabouts, coconut shies, and so forth.
Yes, they're just fitting in a pin now, preparatory to winding the wheels up onto the davits now. They've lowered the whole chassis down onto the ground, and the weight of the gun is being taken by its body.
So this looks fascinating. Simon, what is this manual?
This is the electronic television system, and the manual was written by the senior engineer Douglas Birkinshaw. Because the equipment was so new, it was actually kind of out the factory into Alexandra Palace without any manuals and things written about it. So he took it upon himself to write the whole of the technical manual of the whole of the electronic television system, what every part of the system did.
Brilliant. This is, I mean, only someone like Noel would sit and read this technical manual. It's beyond virtually everybody else, isn't it?
The 3 Bs.
I've certainly not read through this, I must admit.
Well, it's heavy going, I think, isn't it?
So, Simon, how on earth did you get involved so deeply in all this fabulous stuff?
I was putting together an exhibition on the history of television in the library that I used to manage, because I was a library manager. And I wrote to the BBC Written Archive Centre, and Jacqueline Kavanagh, who was the librarian then, wrote back to me saying that there's somebody organising a reunion at Alexandra Palace, gave me his number and said, I think you ought to contact him. That person was Mike Henderson, who used to be an outside broadcast producer and commentator. He invited me to the Society's first reunion at Alexandra Palace, where I was meeting people like Tony Bridgewater, who was one of the BBC engineers, Cecil Madden, all these people that I'd only ever read about in books. And they started talking about setting up an archive. Because of my library background, I said, well, you know, I would like to get involved. 2 weeks after the reunion, I started having all these cardboard boxes arrive.
Arriving.
And whether I wanted to or not, I suddenly became the Society's archivist.
Yeah. So what's your long-term objective?
The long-term aim of the Society is to have somewhere where all this material would able to be consulted. So, if you like, a smaller version of like the BBC Archive Centre, because it isn't just documentation, it's film, it's photographs, it's equipment, written accounts, so written accounts of people's life working in television. It's all sorts of material.
And is stuff still arriving?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, only early last year we had somebody had found a reel of 9.5mm film in the back of their cupboard, and it turned out to be their father's footage that he shot at Alexandra Palace actually before the television service first opened. In fact, for Radio Olympia, 1936. So yes, it's quite surprising what is still out there.
Yeah. Well, we must just give you this priceless possession. You're now an honorary footage detective.
Oh, thank you very much.
And there you are.
It'll go with your other badges
It will
on
go
here.
with my other one.
Is
Yes.
Concorde on here,
Well,
look?
there's a Concorde. That is actually the APTS badge.
Oh,
The
right.
Society has a badge, and that's actually a BBC Cat badge.
Oh,
so
right, there
yes,
you are.
so it all fits, you see.
Like a Boy
So
Scout.
there you go. Brilliant. Thank you.
Brilliant. We should come up to Ali Palace sometime, shouldn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, it'd be good to go back
you a
up there
tour
again.
around.
Yes, it'd be lovely.
Absolutely.
That'd be lovely.
Well,
We should
thank
bring
you,
a
Simon.
camera.
That's really be interesting. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
the viewers will all love
It's a pleasure.
to hear
Thanks
about
very
Simon,
much.
thank
what
you.
you're
Will
up
you
to.
leave the technical manual around, because I'd like to have a read of it.
So you've been
And we've been
the
Footage
Footage
Detectives,
Ali Pally branch.
Well, fellow footage detectives, has this episode jogged a memory for you, or a story you'd like to share?
Enjoyed a reel and recognised the location, or a person, or know the year?
Or have some footage you'd like us to find for you? Or perhaps you have a reel of film you'd like to share with fellow celluloid savers? You know, that reel you found in a can in a junk shop years ago, or the ones handed down to you in a box that you have no idea what to do with or where to show them. or a car boot treasure maybe.
Or were you watching a film on TPTV the other day, or an episode of a series, and did your own bit of footage detective work?
When you spotted a car change miraculously, or a young actor who went on to become great, or even not so great.
Then we, the footage detectives, want to hear from you.
Call us now on 0808 178 8212 or email us. Use Bob's email, he won't mind. The Projectionist at talkingpicturestv.co.uk or snail mail us. The Footage Detectives, TPTV, PO Box 592, Kings Langley, Hearts, WD4 4DB.
We look forward to hearing from you.